The stars had always made humans dream. They looked up at the night sky and wondered what was out there. They built rockets and sent satellites into space. They landed on the moon and sent robots to Mars. They sent radio signals into the darkness, hoping someone would answer. Someone did. The Dominion had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They had conquered 700 worlds. Their ships were faster than light. Their weapons could turn mountains into dust. Their soldiers stood 9 feet tall with hard shells covering their bodies like armor. No species had ever defeated them. No species had ever come close. When their long-range sensors picked up the radio signals from Earth, High Commander smiled. Another world to add to their empire. Another species to put to work in their minds. He brought 300 warships to the Sol system. It was more than enough. It was more than he needed, but liked to make a statement. Admiral Daniel Harper was 52 years old. He had served in the Earth Defense Force for 30 years. He had trained for this moment his entire life, even though he had hoped it would never come. Now he stood on the bridge of the EDS Horizon, the flagship of humanity's fleet, and watched the alien armada appear on his screens. "How many?" he asked. His voice was calm. He could not afford to show fear. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Grant checked her console. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. 300 capital ships, sir, plus support vessels. We are counting over 1,000 contacts." Daniel closed his eyes for a moment. Earth had 47 warships. They were good ships, built with the best technology humans could make, but they were nothing compared to what was coming. "Launch all fighters," he ordered. "Tell the fleet to form up. We will make them pay for every inch." The battle lasted 6 days. On the first day, the fleet entered the solar system. Earth's outer defense stations fired everything they had. Missiles streaked through space. Lasers burned hot against the darkness. The aliens barely slowed down. On the second day, the human fleet engaged. Daniel led his ships in a desperate attack, trying to find weaknesses in the enemy formation. They destroyed 12 ships. They lost 19 of their own. On the third day, the aliens reached Mars. The colony there had 3 million people. They did not bother to land. They simply fired their plasma cannons from orbit. When they were done, there was nothing left but glass and ash. On the fourth day, Earth's governments began to panic. Some wanted to surrender. Others wanted to fight to the last man. They argued while the alien fleet grew closer. On the fifth day, they sent a message. It was simple and clear. "Surrender now. Give us your people for labor. Give us your resources. Resist, and we will burn your world until nothing remains." On the sixth day, the last of Earth's fleet made its final stand above the planet. Daniel Harper watched his ships die one by one. The horizon took hit after hit. Fires burned through the corridors. Good men and women died at their posts. Lisa stumbled to his side, blood running down her face from a cut on her forehead. "Sir, we have lost contact with Geneva. London is gone. Beijing is not responding. They are bombing the cities." Daniel gripped the railing of the command deck. Through the viewport, he could see Earth below. Clouds of smoke rose from a dozen locations. His home was burning. "What about New York?" he asked. "Still standing, for now. The Secretary General is asking for orders." Daniel thought about his daughter. She was 25 years old, working as a doctor in Chicago. He wondered if she was still alive. He wondered if he would ever see her again. "Get me a secure channel to Geneva," he said quietly. "To the emergency bunker." Lisa worked at her console. A moment later, a face appeared on the screen. Secretary General Moore looked like she had not slept in days. Her eyes were red. Her gray hair was messy, but her voice was strong. "Admiral Harper, what is our situation?" "We have lost, ma'am. The fleet is gone. We cannot stop them." Closed her eyes. "Then we must surrender." "No," Daniel's voice was hard. "There is another option." "What option? We have nothing left." "We have Protocol Omega." The Secretary General went pale. That program was shut down. The ethics committee ruled it was too dangerous. The volunteers, what we did to them. They volunteered to save humanity, Daniel said. Now humanity needs saving. Those things are not human anymore. You know what they became. You know what they can do. I know exactly what they can do. That is why we need them. Was silent for a long moment. On the screen behind her, Daniel could see other leaders gathering. They had heard everything. The will enslave our entire species, Daniel continued. They will work us to death in their minds. They will breed us like cattle. Our children will grow up in chains and their children after them. Is that what you want? Of course not. Then let me wake the monsters. Lisa was staring at him. Sir, what is Protocol Omega? What monsters? Daniel did not answer her. He kept his eyes on the Secretary General. Looked at the other leaders. One by one they nodded. Some looked scared, some looked sick, but they all nodded. God forgive us, whispered. Do it, wake them. Daniel turned to Lisa. Send a message to the Nevada facility. Authorization code Omega 779. Tell them to open the vaults. What vaults? What is in Nevada? Daniel looked out at the stars. The fleet was moving into position above Earth. They thought they had won. They thought this was over. They had no idea what was coming. 40 years ago, Daniel said slowly, the scientists on Earth asked a simple question. What if we could not win a war with technology? What if the enemy was stronger, faster, more advanced? How could we fight back? Lisa waited. The answer was simple. If we could not build better weapons, we would have to become better weapons. They took volunteers, soldiers, the bravest men and women in the world, and they changed them. Changed them how? Daniel finally looked at her. There was something in his eyes that made her step back. They made them into the most dangerous predators in the universe. They gave them the strength of gorillas and the speed of cheetahs. They gave them eyes that could see in the dark and reflexes faster than thought. They took away their fear and their doubt and their mercy. They turned them into perfect killing machines. Why have I never heard of this? Because they were too dangerous, even for us. The program was shut down and the subjects were put into frozen sleep. They have been waiting under the desert for 40 years, dreaming of war. Lisa felt cold, and now we are going to wake them up. Yes, Daniel turned back to the viewport. They wanted to conquer Earth. They wanted to break us. They wanted us to beg for mercy. He smiled, and it was not a kind smile. Let us show them what begging really looks like. The Nevada desert was empty and quiet. Nothing lived there except snakes and lizards. The sun beat down on the sand and rocks. No roads led to this place. No planes flew overhead. As far as the world knew, there was nothing here at all. But deep underground, beneath a mile of rock and concrete, something was waking up. Dr. Marshall had worked at the facility for 20 years. He had been a young scientist when they shut the program down. He had watched them put the subjects into cryogenic sleep. He had helped maintain the systems that kept them frozen, dreaming in the dark. Now the order had come. Authorization code Omega 779. He had never thought he would hear those words. The facility was called Site Zero. It had no official name. It did not exist on any map. The government, it was real. Only a handful of people knew the truth. Walked through the long corridors with a team of technicians behind him. Red lights flashed on the walls. Alarms beeped softly. After 40 years of silence, the facility was coming back to life. "Are we sure about this?" asked Dr. Maria Santos, his assistant. She was young, only 32. She had read the files, but she had never seen the subjects in person. The reports say they became unstable, that some of them had to be put down. Some of them admitted. The early versions, but the ones we have here are different. They are the final generation, the perfected models. Perfected, Maria shook her head. They are not machines, they were people. They still are people, just more. They reached the main chamber. It was the size of a football field, filled with row after row of cryogenic pods. Each pod held a single body, frozen at -200 degrees, kept alive by machines and chemicals and science that most people would not believe. 312 pods, 312 monsters. Walked to the central control panel. His fingers hovered over the activation switch. For a moment, he thought about what he was doing. These beings had been created to kill. They had no fear, no hesitation, no mercy. Once they were awake, there would be no putting them back to sleep. He thought about the news reports he had seen. The alien ships above Earth, the cities burning, the millions of people being loaded onto transport ships, taken away to be slaves in some distant part of the galaxy. He pressed the switch. The pods began to hiss. Steam rose from the vents. Temperature readings started to climb. Heart monitors flickered to life, showing slow pulses that gradually grew stronger. The first pod opened with a soft click. Cole sat up slowly. He was tall, over 7 feet, with muscles that looked like they had been carved from stone. His skin was pale from decades without sunlight. His hair was dark and cut short. His eyes opened, and they were not quite human. The pupils were shaped like a cat's, narrow slits that adjusted quickly to the light. He looked around the room, taking in everything in a single glance. His brain processed information 3 times faster than a normal human. He saw the technicians, the equipment, the other pods opening around him. He understood immediately what was happening. How long? His voice was rough, like gravel scraping against metal. 47 years, answered. He tried to keep his voice steady, but his heart was pounding. The aliens came, they conquered us. The Council has authorized your deployment. Climbed out of the pod. He moved with a grace that seemed wrong for someone his size. Every motion was precise, controlled, efficient. He stretched his arms and heard his joints crack and pop as they loosened up. Tell me about the enemy. Activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the air, showing the ships, the alien soldiers, the destruction they had caused. They call themselves the Dominion. They have conquered hundreds of worlds. Their soldiers are 9 feet tall with natural armor. Their weapons are plasma-based. They think they have won. Studied the images. More pods were opening around them. Men and women rose from their frozen sleep, their enhanced bodies adapting quickly to consciousness. Some were stretching. Others were checking their limbs, testing their reflexes. A few were already doing combat drills, their movements blurring with speed. Weaknesses? Asked. Their armor has gaps at the joints. Their eyesight is poor in low light. They rely heavily on technology. They have never faced an enemy that could match them physically. Smiled. It was a cold smile, the smile of a predator that had just spotted prey. They have never faced us. Price was the next one noticed. She had been a Marine sniper before the program, one of the best in the world. Now she was something else entirely. Her eyes had been modified to see further and clearer than any normal human. Her nervous system had been rewired to react faster than thought. She walked up to, moving with the same silent grace. Commander, what are our orders? We have 300 soldiers, said. The enemy has thousands. We cannot win a direct fight. We do not fight directly. His voice was calm and cold. We hunt, we stalk, we kill them one by one until there are none left. Nodded. Standard tactics. We work in small teams, hit and run, make them afraid to sleep, make them afraid to be alone, make them afraid of the dark. Watched them talk and felt a chill run down his spine. These were not soldiers planning a battle. These were predators planning a hunt. They spoke about killing the way normal people talked about the weather. More of the subjects gathered around them, recognized some from the files. There was Harper, whose reflexes were so fast she could dodge bullets. There was Sam Porter, whose bones had been reinforced with metal and whose punches could break through walls. There was Lucy, whose senses were so sharp she could hear a heartbeat from 50 feet away. They were all different, each one modified in their own way, but they all had the same look in their eyes, the same hunger, the same cold readiness for violence. "The aliens think they are the top of the food chain," said to his soldiers. "They have never met a species like us. They do not know what humans become when we have nothing left to lose." He looked at each of them in turn. "For 40 years we have slept. We have dreamed of war. Now the war has come to us. The enemy is strong, they are many. They think they have already won." His lips pulled back from his teeth. "They are wrong. We are going to show them what fear really means. We are going to hunt them through the streets and the buildings and the shadows. We are going to make them regret ever hearing the name Earth." The soldiers did not cheer. They did not shout. They simply nodded, their faces calm and focused. They did not need speeches or motivation. They had been built for this. They had been waiting for this their entire existence. Stepped forward. "There are weapons in the armory, vehicles in the hangar. We can have you deployed within the hour." Looked at him. "Good. Start with the occupied cities. We will hit their command centers first, cut off the head and the body dies." "And the alien soldiers?" Maria asked. Her voice was barely a whisper. "What about them?" Turned to face her. In the harsh light of the facility, he looked less like a man and more like something from a nightmare. His muscles rippled under his skin. His eyes caught the light and reflected it back like a cat's. "They came to Earth looking for slaves," he said softly. "They burned our cities, they killed our people. They thought we would break. They thought we would beg for mercy." He walked toward the exit, his soldiers falling in behind him like shadows. "Let us show them what mercy looks like to a monster." New York City had fallen in a single day. They had landed their troops in Central Park and spread out through the streets like a flood. The police fought back. The National Guard fought back. It did not matter. The aliens were too strong, too fast, too well armed. Now the great city belonged to the Dominion. High Commander had set up his headquarters in a massive ship that hovered above Manhattan. From his command center, he could see the entire city below. The humans had been rounded up and sorted. The strong ones would go to the labor camps. The weak ones would be disposed of. It was the same on every conquered world. Sub-Commander was his second in command. He stood beside, reviewing reports from the occupation forces. "The resistance is fatting," reported. "We have captured the major government leaders. The military bases have been destroyed. The population is cooperating." Nodded with satisfaction. "Another easy conquest. These humans are no different from the others." They had potential, admitted. Their technology was impressive for such a young species. A few more centuries and they might have been a real threat. "A few more centuries they will not have." Turned away from the window. "Begin the transport operations. I want the first ships loaded by tomorrow." That night, a patrol of 12 soldiers disappeared. They had been walking through the ruins of Brooklyn, checking for hidden humans. Their last communication was at 2300 hours. Then nothing. No distress signal. No calls for help. They were simply gone. Sent a search team. They found the patrol 3 hours later, scattered across an empty warehouse. All 12 soldiers were dead. Their armor had been torn open. Their weapons had not been fired. "What did this?" asked, staring at the bodies. His voice was steady, but his 4 eyes were wide with something like fear. "What creature could kill 12 of our warriors without them even fighting back?" The search team leader shook his head. "We found no tracks, no trace of any enemy. It is as if they were killed by ghosts." Did not believe in ghosts, but he also did not know what could do this to trained soldiers. He reported the incident too. The High Commander dismissed it. "Probably a malfunction in their armor systems," said, "or some local predator. This planet has many dangerous animals." "With respect, sir, no animal could have done this. The wounds are too precise. Someone knew exactly where to strike." Then find them and kill them. It is probably just a few human soldiers who escaped the roundup. But it was not just a few soldiers, and they had not escaped. They had been set loose on purpose. Harper watched the compound from the roof of a burned-out building. She had been there for 6 hours, motionless, barely breathing. Her enhanced eyes could see the guards patrolling the perimeter. Her enhanced ears could hear their conversations from half a mile away. 23 guards, 4 heavy weapon stations, 1 command post with communications equipment. She touched the radio at her ear. Team 2, are you in position? Ready? The voice belonged to Sam Porter. He was 3 blocks away, hidden in the sewers beneath the street. Team 3. Ready? That was Lucy, perched on a water tower to the north. Checked her weapons. 2 combat knives made of carbon titanium alloy, 1 silenced pistol, a garrote wire that could cut through almost anything. She traveled light. She did not need heavy firepower. She was the weapon. On my mark, she said, 3, 2, 1, go. She moved. To a normal human, she would have been invisible. A blur of shadow that dropped from the rooftop and crossed the street in the span of a heartbeat. The first guard did not even see her. One moment he was standing at his post. The next moment he was on the ground with his throat cut. The second guard turned at the sound of the body falling, was already behind him. Her knife found the gap between his helmet and his chest armor. He died without making a sound. On the other side of the compound, Sam burst up from the sewer grate like a demon from hell. He was enormous, his modified body packed with muscle and reinforced bone. He grabbed the nearest guard and threw him into 2 others. Before they could recover, he was on them, his fists smashing through their armor like it was made of paper. Lucy came from above, dropping from the water tower with perfect precision. She landed on a guard and drove her blade through the top of his skull. Then she was moving, dancing between the aliens, her enhanced reflexes letting her dodge every shot they fired. The battle lasted 47 seconds. When it was over, all 23 guards were dead. The communications equipment was destroyed. The weapons stations were in pieces. Stood in the middle of the compound, wiping her blades clean. She was not even breathing hard. Report, she said into her radio. All clear on the north side, Lucy responded. South side secure, Sam added. These bugs are not as tough as they look. Smiled, it was a predator's smile, cold and satisfied. Fall back to the safe house. We hit the next target in 4 hours. Across the city, similar attacks were happening. Patrols were being ambushed. Supply convoys were being destroyed. Officers were being killed in their beds. The monsters had been unleashed and they were doing what they did best. They were hunting. Sub-Commander walked through the wreckage of Garrison 7. This was the 5th outpost that had been hit tonight. 37 soldiers dead. No survivors. No witnesses. The security cameras had been destroyed, but one of the technicians had managed to recover a few seconds of footage. Watched it on his personal display, trying to understand what he was seeing. Shadows, moving too fast to track. One moment the soldiers were at their posts. The next moment they were on the ground, dead or dying. The shadows flowed through them like water through sand. This is not possible, whispered. Humans cannot move like that. Humans cannot fight like that. But clearly something could. He was still staring at the footage when a voice spoke from behind him. You are right, normal humans cannot do this. Spun around, reaching for his weapon. A female human stood in the doorway. She was small, barely reaching his chest. Her hair was dark. Her eyes were darker. She smiled at him, and there was nothing friendly in that smile. But we are not normal humans. Fired his plasma cannon. The human was not there anymore. She had moved faster than his eyes could follow, sliding to the side like a ghost. Then she was in front of him, inside his guard, her blade already coming up. We are what happens when humans stop being afraid, she said softly. We are what happens when we let go of our mercy and our kindness and our rules. We are the monsters that your ancestors told stories about. Tried to strike her. She caught his arm and twisted. He heard the bone break, felt the pain explode through his body. She kicked his legs out from under him and put her blade to his throat. "Tell your commander," whispered in his ear. "Tell him that the hunt has begun. Tell him that we will not stop until every single one of you is dead or gone from our world." She stood up and stepped back. "Tell him that Earth sends its regards." Then she was gone, vanishing into the shadows as if she had never been there at all. Lay on the ground, clutching his broken arm, and for the first time in his life, he understood what it meant to be prey. The monsters were loose, and they were just getting started. 3 weeks had passed since the monsters woke up. 3 weeks of blood and fear and death. High Commander stood in his command center, staring at the holographic map of Earth. Red markers covered the display. Each one represented a lost patrol, a destroyed outpost, a dead officer. There were hundreds of them now, hundreds of failures. "This is impossible," he growled for the 100th time. "We are the Dominion. We have conquered 700 worlds. We cannot be defeated by primitives." Sub-Commander stood beside him. His arm was still in a healing cast from his encounter with the human female. The medical officer said it would take another week to fully repair. Every time he looked at it, he remembered the cold eyes of the creature that had broken it. "High Commander, our losses have reached 15% of ground forces," reported. His voice was flat, carefully controlled. "The soldiers are afraid. They refuse to patrol at night. They refuse to go anywhere alone." Cowards snarled. "They are warriors they do not fear." "With respect, sir, they have never faced an enemy like this. These humans. They are not like the others we have conquered. They move through the shadows like ghosts. They strike without warning and disappear without trace. Our soldiers never even see them coming." Slammed his fist against the console. "Then use the orbital sensors. Track them from space." "We have tried. Their heat signatures blend with the environment. They seem to have technology that masks them from our scanners, or perhaps," hesitated, "perhaps they have been modified in ways we do not understand." "Modified how?" "Our scientists have examined the bodies of the humans we have killed in combat. Their genetic structure is unlike anything we have seen. They have been enhanced at the cellular level. Faster reflexes, greater strength, improved senses. They are not natural. They are weapons that have been designed to kill." Was silent for a long moment. He had not believed the reports at first. Humans were supposed to be weak, primitive creatures. Their technology was impressive but limited. The idea that they could create soldiers capable of challenging warriors seemed laughable. It was not laughable anymore. "How many of them are there?" he asked. "We estimate 300 to 400 based on attack patterns, but we cannot be certain. They never engage in large groups. They work in teams of 3 or 4, hitting multiple targets at the same time. It makes them seem like an army." 300 creatures against our entire occupation force, shook his head. "This should be easy." "It should be," agreed, "but it is not." That night, the monsters came for the command ship. Cole led the assault team personally. 12 of his best soldiers, including Price, Harper, and Sam Porter. They had spent 2 weeks preparing for this mission, studying the ship's layout, learning its patrol schedules, identifying weaknesses in its security. The command ship hovered 200 meters above Central Park. It was heavily armored, bristling with weapons, protected by energy shields. Getting inside should have been impossible. The monsters did it anyway. They used a maintenance shaft that they had overlooked. It was designed for human technicians to service the external hull. They had not bothered to seal it, because they never considered that anyone would be crazy enough to climb the outside of a floating warship. Went first. He scaled the smooth metal surface with his bare hands. his enhanced fingers finding tiny holds that no normal human could use. Behind him, the others followed in silence. They moved like shadows, invisible against the night sky. The first guard they encountered was alone, standing at an access hatch. Killed him so quickly that the alien did not even have time to realize he was in danger. Then they were inside, moving through the corridors like ghosts. The alarm did not sound until they reached the command deck. Was reviewing reports when the door exploded inward. Guards rushed to defend him, raising their weapons, shouting orders. It did not matter. The monsters were faster, stronger, more ruthless. They flowed through the guards like water through a broken dam. Pushed through the chaos until he stood face to face with the High Commander. Was tall, even by standards. His armor was decorated with medals and symbols of rank. His 4 eyes burned with anger and something else, something that might have been fear. "You are the leader of these creatures," demanded. He drew his ceremonial blade, a curved weapon forged from the metals of a conquered world. "Face me in single combat if you dare." Smiled, it was not a pleasant smile. "You conquered our world, you burned our cities, you killed our people, and now you want a fair fight." He moved before could react. One moment he was standing there. The next moment he was inside the High Commander's guard, catching his blade in one bare hand. The edge bit into his palm, drawing blood, but did not flinch. He did not even seem to notice. "We do not fight fair," said quietly. "We fight to win." His other hand came up, striking his wrist with enough force to shatter bone. The blade fell from the High Commander's grip, caught it with his bleeding hand and reversed it, pressing the point against throat. "Your species has conquered 700 worlds," continued. "You think you are the greatest warriors in the galaxy. You think nothing can stand against you." He pushed back against the wall, keeping the blade at his throat. Around them the battle was ending. The guards were dead or dying, and stood at the exits blocking any escape. Sam held a wounded officer by the throat, waiting for orders. "But you have never faced humans before. You have never faced a species that evolved by fighting everything around it. We killed the great predators of our world. We survived ice ages and famines and plagues. We fought ourselves for thousands of years, perfecting the art of war. And when we could not be strong enough on our own, we learned to make ourselves stronger." Leaned in close, his inhuman eyes meetings. "You came to Earth looking for slaves. You found monsters instead. And now those monsters are going to teach you a lesson that your empire will never forget." His mouth opened and closed. No words came out. For the first time in his long life, the High Commander of the Dominion had nothing to say. "I am going to let you live," said. "I am going to let you call your fleet, and you are going to tell them to leave this system and never come back." "The Dominion does not retreat," managed to whisper. "We will send more ships, more soldiers. Then we will kill them too, and then we will come for you. Not just your ships, not just your soldiers. We will find your and we will burn it the way you burned ours." Released him and stepped back. "The humans you conquered before, they were not ready. They were not prepared for something like you, but we are different. We made ourselves into weapons specifically for this. We have been waiting for you for 40 years. And now that you are here, we are going to make you regret ever learning our name." He threw the blade at his feet. "Make the call, tell your fleet to leave. Tell them what happened here. Tell them that Earth is not worth the cost." Looked at the blade. He looked at the bodies of his guards. He looked at the monsters standing around him, covered in blood, their eyes cold and hungry. Then slowly, he reached for the communication console. "All ships," he said, his voice hollow and broken. "This is High Commander, retreat from the system. Repeat, retreat from the system. Earth is forbidden." The monsters watched in silence as the order went out. None of them smiled. None of them celebrated. They simply stood there, waiting, watching, ready to kill again if they needed to. They were weapons, and weapons did not feel satisfaction. They only waited for the next battle. The fleet hung in orbit above Earth for 3 more hours after the order came. 300 warships, enough firepower to turn the planet into a dead rock. The captains argued with each other. They demanded confirmation. They refused to believe that their high commander was ordering a retreat. Then the recordings came through. Video from the command ship's security systems, showing what had happened to their guards, showing what had happened to, showing the creatures that had torn through their defenses like they were made of paper. The argument stopped after that. One by one, the ships activated their jump drives and disappeared into the darkness between stars. They did not look back. They did not slow down. They simply ran, fleeing from the small blue planet and the monsters that lived there. Admiral Stone of the newly reformed Earth Defense Force watched them go from the observation deck of Orbital Station Gamma. It was one of the few human installations that had survived the invasion. The others were being rebuilt, slowly, painfully, one piece at a time. "I cannot believe it," said Lisa Grant. She stood beside him, her arms still in a sling from the battle 3 weeks ago. They actually left. After everything they did, they just ran away. They ran because they understood what would happen if they stayed. The voice came from behind them, calm and cold. They turned. Price stood in the doorway. She was still wearing her combat gear, her weapons still strapped to her body. There was dried blood on her face and hands. She had not bothered to wash it off. "They have conquered hundreds of worlds," continued. She walked toward them, her footsteps silent on the metal floor. "They have destroyed civilizations that were older than ours. They think they are the ultimate predators." She stopped beside the window and looked out at the stars. "But they have never faced anything like us. They have never met a species that was willing to remake itself into something worse than them, something stronger, something meaner, something that would never stop, never surrender, never show mercy." Studied her carefully. She looked human. She had 2 arms and 2 legs and a face that might have been pretty once. But there was something wrong with her eyes, something cold and empty that made him uncomfortable. "What happens now?" he asked. "The war is over, Earth is free. What do your people do next?" Was quiet for a long moment. "We were made for war," she said finally. "That is all we know, all we are good at. When there is no enemy to fight, we become difficult." "Difficult how?" "We get bored, and bored predators are dangerous predators." Lisa took a step back without meaning to. "Are you saying you might turn on us, on your own people?" Looked at her. There was no anger in her expression, no offense, just cold acceptance of facts. "We were designed to be weapons. Weapons do not have feelings. They do not have loyalties. They have targets." She paused. "The scientists who made us knew this. That is why they put us to sleep after the program ended. They were afraid of what we might become if we had nothing to kill." "Then what do we do?" asked. "We cannot put you back in those pods. You saved humanity. We owe you everything." "You owe us nothing. We did what we were made to do," turned back to the window. "But you are right. We cannot go back to sleep. And we cannot stay here walking among normal humans. We would always be different, always dangerous." "Then what is the answer?" Was silent for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was soft and distant. "The galaxy is full of empires like the civilizations that conquer and enslave and destroy. They prey on weaker species because they think they are untouchable. They think no one can stop them." She turned to face them, and there was something new in her eyes, something that might have been purpose. "We will go out there. We will find them. And we will teach them what fear means. Every empire that threatens innocent worlds will learn what happens when you push too far. They will learn that there is something worse than them out there, something that hunts the hunters." Lisa stared at her. "You want to become galactic protectors?" "No, protectors defend. We do not defend," smiled, and it was the smile of a wolf on the hunt. "We attack. We destroy. We make examples. Every civilization in the galaxy will learn that if they threaten the weak, the monsters will come for them. That sounds like a dangerous path, said carefully. It is the only path for us. We cannot be human anymore. We cannot live normal lives. But we can use what we are to make the universe a safer place, or at least a more frightened one. She walked toward the door, then stopped and looked back. Tell the other governments what I have said. Tell them we will leave Earth and never return. We will take ships and weapons and disappear into the stars. And whenever some empire decides to conquer an innocent world, we will be there, waiting in the darkness. How will you know when someone needs help? We will find ways, we will build networks, we will listen. His voice grew hard. And when we hear of injustice, we will come, without warning, without mercy. The strong will learn to fear the night again. She left without another word. And Lisa stood in silence for a long time, watching the empty space where the fleet had been. Do you think she meant it? Lisa asked finally, about protecting other worlds. I think she meant every word. The question is whether that makes things better or worse. What do you mean? Sighed and turned away from the window. We unleashed them to save ourselves, but now they are loose in the galaxy. 300 of the deadliest predators ever created, with nothing to hold them back. They may save a lot of innocent species, or they may become worse than the empires they are hunting. They saved us, Lisa said quietly. Doesn't that count for something? It counts for everything, but monsters do not stay heroes forever. That is what makes them monsters. Far below them, on the surface of Earth, the rebuilding had begun. Cities were being repaired. Survivors were being found. Governments were forming again, trying to restore order to a wounded world. It would take years, maybe decades, to fully recover from the invasion. But humanity would survive. They always did. And out among the stars, the fleet carried a warning back to the Dominion. They told stories of the creatures that had hunted them through the shadows. They described the terror of facing beings that felt no fear and showed no mercy. They warned their empire never to return to Earth, never to threaten the humans, never to forget what had happened. The warning spread. From the worlds to their neighbors, from trade routes to outposts, from one side of the galaxy to the other. Everyone heard the same message. Do not go to Earth. Do not threaten the humans, because there is something sleeping there, something ancient and terrible and patient, something that will wake up if you give it a reason. The monsters are real, and they are waiting. 10 years later, a small fleet of ships left Earth's orbit. They were crewed by the enhanced soldiers, the weapons that humanity had made and then feared. Cole commanded from the lead ship. Price was at his side. Harper and Sam Porter and all the others were with them. They did not know where they were going. They did not know what they would find, but they knew what they were. They were the darkness that hunted the darkness. They were the predators that even other predators feared. They had come to Earth looking for slaves. They had burned cities and killed millions. They had expected the humans to beg for mercy. Instead, the humans had unleashed monsters. And now those monsters were loose among the stars, carrying humanity's rage and humanity's genius into the void. Every tyrant in the galaxy would learn what that meant. Every empire that crushed the weak would discover what happened when the weak had champions who could not be stopped, could not be reasoned with, could not be frightened. The monsters did not beg for mercy. The monsters did not even understand mercy. They only understood the hunt. And the hunt was just beginning.